short-lived climate forcers are a particular class of air pollutants, and they're called as such because, first of all, they're not only important air pollutants, but they have a relatively short lifetime in the atmosphere, especially as compared to other long-lived greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide and nitrous oxide. And what makes that special is that if you were to address the emissions and substances that lead to short-lived climate forcers in the atmosphere, you would get a pretty quick response from the atmosphere in slowing down global warming, not over centuries, but actually over the next couple of decades. So for that reason, these substances, which include black carbon, methane, and ozone at ground level, are of great interest to scientists and policymakers because they open up a whole new avenue of climate protection alternatives. The report starts by recognizing the fact that air pollution in the world now is a plague, especially in developing countries. It is a major public health risk. The World Health Organization recently estimated that around 1.2 million people die prematurely each year in the world because of exposure to outdoor air pollutants. And over and above that, about 2 million people die each year prematurely because of the exposure to air pollutants indoors. And what kind of people are these? These are poor people living in developing countries, especially women who spend hours each day around smoky cook stoves fired by wood, dung, and other biomass materials, inhaling these particles and shortening their lifespans. This report uses that as a departure point to realize that there are some air pollutants that are not only a danger to public health, but also have an important climate impact. And we call these short-lived climate forcers. And they include black carbon, which is a basic constituent of soot produced by poorly operating cook stoves, by badly operating brick kilns, by diesel vehicles which are not tuned correctly, where the engines are not operating correctly, as well as methane, which is an important greenhouse gas in its own right, but leads to the production of ozone at ground level, which is an important public health danger, as well as having impacts on crops and ecosystems. The report identifies that short-lived climate forcers are an opportunity to address not only air pollution problems and climate change problems. The question arises then, how are we going to reduce these substances in the atmosphere? Well, what we found through the scientific community is that a package of 16 measures, nothing very deep technologically or economically, but measures like improving brick kilns, or replacing smoky cook stoves, biomass cook stoves, with more efficient models, would substantially reduce by 2030 both black carbon emissions and methane emissions, which are leading to ozone in the atmosphere. We figured that through this set of 16 measures, about 40% of the methane could be reduced and about 75% of the black carbon emissions could be reduced relative to a baseline in 2030. An exciting finding of the study was that about 50% of the emission reductions of both black carbon and methane could be achieved at low or no costs. With black carbon, you could reduce that substantially by improving the energy efficiency of vehicles and the energy efficiency of cook stoves, in the end saving substantial fuel costs, which over the lifetime of the equipment will actually lead to cost savings. The rub will be, of course, finding the funds to finance upfront these control measures so that they can pay for themselves over their equipment lifetime. So a lot of the solutions we're talking about here in reducing short-lived climate forcers and reducing global warming and reducing air pollution and its impacts have to do with an improved efficiency of our energy system, which of course will come along with jobs for the technicians to improve the energy efficiency and produce the renewable energy that will reduce the methane emissions, as well as improving cook stoves, which will reduce the amount of fossil fuels needed where they are used for cooking, and reduce deforestation, which is caused by the fuel wood extraction needed for the cook stoves. So it all ties together. The reduction of black carbon emissions and methane emissions, reducing air pollution, and climate change through a more efficient energy system, through a more efficient agriculture, which are core ideas of the green economy.